Greetings, everyone. I hope we are all doing well. Thank you for making time to join us for the February meetup hosted by Women in RMEL. My name is Linden Sifel, and I am the initiator or the convener of Women in RMEL. Women in RMEL stands for Women in Research, Monitoring, Evaluation, and Learning. And we are an online community that seeks to accelerate the careers of women in the research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning space. So you're all welcome once again. And I look forward to an engaging session with you all. But before we dive into our topic for today, I'll just take us through the agenda briefly. Great. So we are going to discuss or go go into the topic on my career journey as a project management and RML professional. And our speaker for today is Mawuena Asem Hanson. So before she comes, we'll engage in an icebreaker activity. Then I will introduce her and then she will continue with her presentation. We'll have a time of Q&A, comments, announcements, and then we'll end the session for today. Okay, so basically our activity is to unscramble these terminologies used in research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning, as well as project management, program management, and so on. So feel free to share your answers in the chat, or you can also unmute yourselves to provide the correct answers. And you can begin from any number at all. You don't have to go in chronological order. So let me just give you a few minutes to see if you can figure out what these words are. Any guess? Can anyone make any guess? Can just give it a try. Let's see. Okay, so number 5, survey. Yes, that's correct. So we have one word that has been figured out. So remaining 5 more. Okay, I'm sure we're still thinking. Okay, Evelyn says participatory for number 2. Yes, that's correct, Evelyn. Thank you for your response. Okay, so we have 4 left. Okay, number 3, track. Yes, that's correct, Marna. Okay, so we have 3 left. So we have 3 more. Chat. Okay, Ehonam says number 4 is evidence. Yes, that's correct. Ehonam, thank you. Okay, so we have two left, number 1 and number 6. Okay, Honam says 5 survey. Yes. Yes, Mawuena already gave us the answer for that. So we're left with number 1 and number 6. Okay. Okay. Should I give the answers or should I give you some time to think about? Okay, so we have, okay, number 1, theory. Yes, that's correct, Mawuena. Thank you. So one more, number 6. Number 6. All thinking. Give us all 1 minute. Okay, so we have the answer for number 6. Okay, so Mawuena and Evelyn got number 6 correct, which is framework. Framework. Great. Okay, so you can give yourselves a hand. Thank you all for participating. I hope we all enjoyed this ice-breaking activity. Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to continue by reading our speaker's profile. Okay, so Mawuena Asem Hanson is a public health professional from Ghana with over 7 years of experience advancing education and health outcomes across Africa. She currently serves as Programs Manager at Practical Education Network, also known as PEN, where she leads the design and delivery of impactful evidence-based programs. She's also an adjunct lecturer at Central University, teaching in the Department of Public Health. With a strong background in nutrition, project management, research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning, Mawuena has contributed to initiatives that strengthen STEM education and improve nutrition outcomes for the vulnerable in society. She holds a master's degree in global health from Karolinska Institutet and a bachelor's degree in nutrition and food science from University of Ghana, Legon. She's passionate about leadership, social impact, and personal growth. Mawuena is deeply committed to using system thinking and strategic leadership to transform lives, particularly in low and middle income countries. So, Mawuena, we are all ears, and our audience we are looking forward to listening to you and learning from your experience. So let's all welcome Mawuena as she takes us through her presentation.
All
Mawuena.
right. Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I joined, or you enabled me join Women in RMEL some years ago when I was at Penn as the RMEL officer. So some years ago, we met, and it's been amazing getting to know you professionally and from afar. And I'm impressed with the work you are doing. Good job with women in RMEL. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm grateful.
Thank you too. Thank you for honoring this invitation.
Great. So, not to waste too much time, I'm going to zoom right into my presentation. And thank you all for joining. I see my sisters have joined. There are no women in RMEL, but they've joined. So thank you for joining. Thank you all for joining. Evelyn, the two Evelyns, and Aram, Evanam. Thank you all for joining. So I'll go right into today's presentation. I hope I can make it on time. And I don't want to try and bore you with a lot of things. So I'll try as much as possible to make it fun, a little fun for you. Okay. And then I'm sure later there'll be time for some question and answers if you have any questions for me. Okay, so I'll zoom right into my presentation. All right, can you all hear me very well?
Yes, please, loud and clear.
All right, great, great, great. That's good to hear. Um, just give me a moment. Something just happened with my sharing view. Okay, all right. So today I'm supposed to talk about my journey in project management and RMEL. Okay. I thought it was an easy topic, but apparently it's not that easy because I was wondering who wants to hear about me? Should it be about me? How should I do the presentation? But I hope that at the end of the day, we will all learn from each other. I think that it's a good opportunity for us to learn from each other's experience. So I hope that as I share my experience today, we can all take one or two things home that would inform the next decisions that we take, especially in our career and in our social lives. Okay. So zooming right into projects management and RMEL, I'm sure we've all heard about project management, even if you are not in the field. And basically, project management is about leading a project team throughout the life cycle of a project. Okay. And usually the life cycle of a project entails, when you take away all the proposal and grant acquisition, I mean, you go right into planning, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, and then you close out your project. When it comes to RMEL, I realize a lot of people do not know what RMEL is or RMEL is. So it's research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And if you go deep into project management, you realize that, I mean, in this particular context, I will say that RMEL is a component of project management. You cannot do project management without especially monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And M&E, for that matter, helps you to use data to make decisions in project management. So I would say that the two go hand in hand, and I'm sure that by the time the presentation ends, you will see the reason why I am saying this. Okay, so about project management and M&E, just to cut it short. Project management and M&E, just like any other profession, I believe you can intentionally carve out a profession for yourself, where you intentionally, take courses, go to school, take up roles that help lead you into either of them. So you can intentionally, right from the beginning, take steps to become a professional either in project management or M&E, or you can accidentally end up in either of them, as you go along, whenever things happen, you just go with the flow and you end up there. And that's exactly what happened to me. I never, when I was growing up, I never, so that takes me to my next slide. So when I was growing up, I never heard about research. I never heard about monitoring, evaluation, learning, M&E. I never heard about project management. So when I was a child, I actually wanted to be a pediatrician. Yes, like so a doctor, and when I was growing up, it was like that for young people who want to study science. So when you study science, you either become a doctor or a nurse or an engineer. That's all we knew. So I'm not too sure whether it was an aspiration I thought out for myself or I just heard someone say it. I knew I wanted to become a doctor, But as time went on, I knew I also desired to specialize into pediatrics. Yeah. And so in the midst of, a lot of uncertainties, um, a bleak future when I was young because of some tragedies that struck my family and all of that. Um, by divine intervention, some way, somehow, I pulled through my, primary education, JHS education, and then ended up in St. Rose's Senior High School in Akwetia, where I read science. Um, it was at St. Rose's that I actually um, started thinking about, how a future will be if I were a doctor, what should I do to become a doctor? And started, saying things like, oh, I'll become a doctor. I want to do this, I'll do that, etc. And thankfully, I ended up as an exchange student also. So I did a year abroad in the US. So at the age of 17, I had the opportunity to travel all by myself to stay with host parents for a year, in a country I have never been, stay with people I have never met, etc. And for me, that was a turning point, one of the major shifts in my mindset. It gave me good exposure. It gave me the desire to do more. In fact, I at that point, I was almost certain that I am on the right track to becoming a pediatrician. So these are pictures from when I was in high school. So I experienced all the prom, all the, high school games and homecoming. It's interesting. So today when I watch, movies and I see those things, it's interesting and it speaks to me. So because I knew at that time that, I was on the right track to becoming a pediatrician, whilst I was in the US, I wrote SATs, all the things that you can write to want to study abroad, because I didn't want who goes abroad and wants to come back home. So I wanted to come back home, but unfortunately that didn't happen because of a story for another day. So I had to come back home and ended up in the University of Ghana, where I read nutrition and food science. I must say that time was a tough time in my life because I think it was a combination of disappointment and but I think it was also a blessing in disguise because I don't think if I did not end up in University of Ghana, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so I call it a blessing in disguise. So yeah, level 100 was tough. It was very tough because I couldn't come to terms with the fact that I couldn't study abroad and all of that. And to make matters worse, I didn't get into medical school because of one or two reasons. And so I ended up in biological science. And, during my time, when you enter into biological science, you have the option, when you get to level 300 to read nutrition and food science, to read physics, chemistry, biology and all those things. And so I didn't know what to do. I didn't like any of those subjects. And someone mentioned to my dad about nutrition and food science. And I was like, okay, let me just give it a try. I didn't know what nutrition was about. I didn't know what food science was about, but I knew I had to choose a course. I knew I had to survive. And so I ended up in nutrition and food science. And I must say that it really helped me and I learned a lot. I realized I enjoyed it. It was very practical. I could apply to, life. It wasn't abstract like we say, when you're reading physics and all of that, you say it's abstract and all of that. But I could apply nutrition and food science to my daily life. I understood it. I was doing well in class, etc. And one day in the class, we had a class and we had a guest lecturer in the class. And he came from World Vision to talk to us about their work at World Vision. And I was like, wow, I never knew there was a profession that will give you money and fulfillment, you know. By the end of the class, I told myself I have to work at World Vision. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I knew that I wanted to work at World Vision. Fast forward, after school, I had to do my national service. I did my national service at FDA, Food and Drugs Authority at Shashi, which I enjoyed. But, during my national service, I knew that, first of all, there was a ban on employment and all of that. I didn't know my left from my right. I wasn't fulfilled and all of that. It looked almost impossible to end up at World Vision. But some way, somehow, I ended up at World Vision. It's a story for another day. Honestly, I, I don't know how I ended up there, but I ended up at World Vision. And it was also another turning point for me in my life. That's why I started, having fulfillment. I was like, okay, well, if nutrition didn't help me, if I couldn't be a pediatrician and all of that. At least maybe when I come to World Vision, maybe I can end up becoming a nutritionist because I was on a project that was looking at malnutrition. Okay, so looking to reduce the prevalence of malnutrition in children under 5 years old. And it was somewhere in Asesewa. So that was the first. The second time I also left home to pursue, either education or career, this time around career. So I stayed in Asesewa for some time to implement that project and I loved it. I loved it. I learned a lot. That is why I began to understand the concept of, NGO development, implementation, impact, etc. And it also inspired me to want to do more. My boss, at that time, I used to say when you see his passport, he has like 5 passports all put together with visas from everywhere, traveling all over the world. I told myself I want to, I have to stay in this job so that I can travel the world, etc. So World Vision was good and all of that, but I also knew that I wanted to continue my education. And I'm glad I went to World Vision because then it helped me to know that it's not only about, when you do science, it's not only about medicine or even nutrition and food science, but there's a course like public health. I never knew there was a course like public health and all of that. So one day I had a friend who just sent me a job, not a job ad, sorry, an admissions ad from Karolinska Institutet. When you want to school abroad, you only think about schooling um in the US, in the UK, the countries we hear about. I never knew I, I never thought about countries outside of these 2 countries. But when I saw the course, I said, I have never seen global health. I've heard about public health. Let me see what global health is all about. I went and read it. I realized that it's just like public health, but on a global scale. So I was like, I like this course. I didn't know about Karolinska and all of that. I had never heard about it. So I just tried to apply after several attempts of applying to go to school, which failed. That's also a story for another day. But thankfully, I gained admission into the school. And let me say this story. I hope I can still make it on time. So when I got admitted into the program, I knew the fees were a lot, no funding, etc. So one day, my dad was talking to his friend that his daughter has gotten a school, and he asked him about the school. He mentioned Karolinska Institutet, and the person was like, "This is one of the best schools in the world. They give the Nobel Peace Prize." And I didn't know. I just applied. And so he was even surprised that I had got into a competitive school. But thankfully, I got in, and then he helped, and then I ended up at Karolinska. So these are pictures from my school, my graduation, from my presentation, my thesis presentation, my friends, etc. And I must say that Karolinska was the beginning of my journey into research. Half of the course was about research, qualitative methods, quantitative methods. I began to understand what research was all about. You know, it was so interesting. I had, colleagues from all over the world, and we were debating on global health issues or public health issues on global scales and all of that. Very competitive, very challenging, but it also opened a lot of doors for me. I got to publish my thesis for the first time in a peer-reviewed journal. So it tells you how much I grew when it came to research. I even, because I wanted to do no more in research, when my friends were using secondary data is data that has already been collected by someone and you are using the data for your research. But I wanted to collect primary data. So while my friends were using secondary data, I came down to Ghana to collect data, from three different teaching hospitals in Ghana, did all the work. And everybody thought I was crazy, but it opened a lot of doors for me. And I think that is what gave me opportunity when it came to research. So fast forward after my master's. So I had a master's in global health. Fast forward, I had to come back home and I entered into a fallow period, you know. So I came back to Ghana in high spirits. I have come back from Sweden. My degree is not from Ghana. I'll get a good job and all of that. My colleagues, my brothers, my sisters. It took almost 3 years for me to get a job, even with all my so-called qualifications. And that period I call a fallow period, a period of joblessness. But that was the time I also married and had children, a period of doubt. I'm sure at that time, if depression was a thing at that time, I would have said I went into a period of depression. I couldn't understand why I couldn't get a job, but I think that period was good for me because knowing me very well, if I had gotten a job before finishing school, I will not come back to Ghana. And if I had gotten a job immediately, I had come back to Ghana, I wouldn't have married. I wouldn't have had children. I would have just been running, and because I have a sense of I want to do well and all of that. So that period was good for me. It got me thinking, and it humbled me. I realized that it's not about the degrees and the exposure and all of that. So that was a blessing also in disguise for me. And in 2020 during COVID, that's in August 2020, I got a job. I mean, who gets a job in COVID? I mean, if you don't get a job when everything is okay, how do you get a job during, a pandemic when the whole world is running helter-skelter? So I saw this job ad on my school's platform, WhatsApp platform, and then I applied. So I saw the position, research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning. I was like, well, I know research. Monitoring, evaluation, learning. Well, when I was at World Vision, I did some form of mentoring, monitoring, and all of that. So I think I can handle it. So I applied, and lo and behold, I got in. I was thankful. I was thankful. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot because I had come from, a nutrition and a food science background now into global health or public health. And then I remember during the interview, they asked me why this job and all of that. This is in the education space. And I said, oh, I think education is a public health issue. I think that was a smart That was a smart thing to say. Yes, of course, public health. I mean, education is a public health issue, but little did I know that, education is also another ball game altogether. So there are different aspects of public health. Education is one. I was more exposed to nutrition, health, and all of that. So I wasn't up for all the challenges that were going to come in my work as an RMEL officer. So I started off as an RMEL officer, and I must say that again, being in the profession for some time, I realized that I entered with very little experience. Um, it was a period of learning, growth, breakthrough opportunities. I mean, my boss had that amazing, gave me opportunities to grow. That was the first full-time RMEL position. So you can imagine there was no blueprint. There were no systems in place. There was a framework. Those of you who are in M&E, about, theory of change, about log framework and all of that. These were scanty. They were scattered, nothing organized. And I had to build everything from scratch, in quotes. Of course, with direction from Heather. She was very instrumental. And I must say that I have learned a lot in monitoring and evaluation in research. So I spent almost 5 years being an RMEL officer at Practical Education Network. And during that time, by the grace of God and by the instrumentality of Heather, I mean, I was able to publish, I was able to collaborate with her to publish journal articles, do presentations, organize a research dissemination meeting, a lot of things, a lot of things. And that was where I was like, oh, okay, I think I want to build a career in M&E, and because I knew that I had little experience, it was tough. I had to learn on the feet. I took a lot of courses. No year will go by without me doing a course. I did a course with Allison. I did a course with Philanthropy University. I did a course with ILO. Any course I see, any program I see on RMEL, I will attend, I will do, and all of that. And I think it helped me to grow a lot in the field, and I wasn't passive. One interesting thing is that when I was entering into the field, people said, oh, when it comes to M&E, the projects people will sideline you. There's no budget line and all of that for M&E. But I didn't let that affect me. I pushed, I showed that I wanted to learn and all of that. And those of you who want to build a career in M&E, I would want to say that M&E has different names, depending on wherever you find yourself. So at Penn, we say RMEL. In other organizations, they'll say MEL. So it's monitoring, evaluation, learning. Others say MEAL, monitoring, evaluation, accountability, learning, and all of that. So they are just different names for the same thing. So wherever you find yourself, whether it's M&E, whether there's a research attached to it, whether there's accountability or even advocacy, attached to it, is almost the same thing. And I also want to mention that M&E can be learned, especially on the job, because even till today, I don't think there's any school, university, even in Ghana, that awards a degree in M&E. I may be wrong, but I have not seen any. So you can imagine, how do you then build a career in M&E if you don't have a degree in M&E? So M&E is applicable, it's transferable. You can transfer it. So at World Vision, I can say I did some form of M&E, but it was different. It was more of qualitative mentoring, monitoring, interviews, following up on people and all of that. And so I was able to transfer that knowledge into what I was doing at Penn, and it helped me. So I am more biased towards qualitative research, data collection. I like interviews. I like, all the transcribing and the themes and the quotes and all of that. But I also had to learn the quantitative aspects, the data analysis and all of that. I had to learn, how to do monitoring and evaluation in the context of PENS programming, in the context of education, so you can transfer your knowledge. It's very practical, it's applicable, it's transferable, and then it is rewarding, I must say. So usually, in M&E, usually it's in the NGO space that M&E is a big thing, but I wouldn't rule it out from a for-profit, um, a for-profit organization. But in the not-for-profit, I say that it's rewarding because you are earning money, but you are also making impact. And that is what I like. I mean, isn't it amazing that you get to do a job that you are not only earning money, but you are also making impact. You are influencing policy change, and all of that. So these are four things that I think you can take out. So don't be worried if you want to go into M&E. Don't be worried that there's no school that has a degree in M&E. Even today, when we are looking for people in an M&E role, we acknowledge the fact that hardly would you get people who have certifications in that. But once you learn on the job, you find yourself in a place you can learn M&E and then grow in that role. So that's also what I wanted to point out to you. So that is it for me. And I started looking for, so anytime I am looking for opportunities, I'm only looking at M&E, M&E. I told myself I have to go in M&E, I have to go in research. I love research, etc. And so even in my organization at Penn, when I think about growth in my role, I think about, I want to be an RMEL manager, I never thought about being a programs manager because I felt it will derail me off my track. At least for the first time, I have settled, moving from one profession to the other, one aspiration to the other, one interest to the other. As of 2025, before June, I knew that I want to do M&E. I want to become an M&E manager, M&E expert, M&E specialist, and all of that. And then one day in June, or before June, I think in May, I received a message from Heather mentioning that's my CEO. She mentioned that she wants to discuss my future, something like that, my role or my future at Penn. I couldn't sleep the whole night. I was like, have I done something wrong? What have I done? Is there anything wrong? And all of that. Also because, especially in M&E, just to go back a little, uh, sometimes it's challenging, okay, at the same time rewarding. Sometimes you have sleepless nights because you've developed a tool. You realize that, I've forgotten a question. This tool, when would I get the right responses? Or maybe I'm in the middle of a research and I realize that, I forgot to give a consent. I forgot to do this and all of that. So I actually thought I had done something wrong. But well, I was like, okay, why not? So I went to work the next day, and Heather wanted to meet me with my supervisor. So I met them, and they said, what do they have decided, or they want to propose to me to take up the programs manager role. I was very surprised because never in my mind did I dream of becoming a manager at Penn, because in our organogram, we are a growing organization. So it will take years, for you to even grow in your role and all of that. And that's okay. I mean, when Penn gets there, we will get there. But for now, I was very comfortable in M&E. I liked it in my one corner, and it was challenging. And it wasn't boring. So every day and its challenge, and every day and its learning. It also came with opportunities to do presentations, to do research, and all of that. So I never wanted to be a programs manager, to be honest. And so when the opportunity came, well, I was surprised, but I was grateful for the opportunity. And I asked to think about it and all. I thought about it and I decided to take up the role. So that's currently where I am. I'm currently the programs manager at Practical Education Network. And I must say, it's been a period of learning, a period of being humble, a period where I've taken up a more leadership role. It's more work, and also a period where I'm very grateful to God first for the opportunity, and also to my organization. Penn has been a blessing, I must say, and everywhere, anywhere, I will mention Penn as being part of my journey of growth and my journey of learning. And well, and other opportunities came my way, after I joined Penn. One day I was doing something at my church. I was speaking at my church, and someone walked up to me and asked if I have considered lecturing. I mean, I had considered it some time ago when I was looking for a job and all of that. It never worked out. And so when the person told me, I said, "Oh, yeah, I've considered it before, but I mean, I've forgotten about it. I'm now at Penn and I love it and all of that." And the person asked me to try it. And to cut the long story short, I applied for it and then I got in also. So I currently also teach at the Department of Public Health at Central University. And I get to impart knowledge in the lives of young people, which I also love. So back to program or project management or being a programs manager. Um, I must say that I'll talk about some of the challenges and then some of my learnings and all of that. So let me end it here. But this is where I am today. And I would say that project management, I think that if you want to enter into project management, it's a good thing. I'm sure that as compared to RMEL, we've all heard about project management and all of that. But I would say that you have an added advantage if you have a background in M&E. So if you want to go into project management or program management, I would advise you to do something, a short course, a degree, or if possible, something in M&E, because I think that because I have a background in M&E, it has helped me in project management. I understand project management more because of my M&E background. I understand what the funders are looking for. I understand impact. I understand evaluation. I understand learning. And so I'm able to push my team to look at aspects that an ordinary project manager or program manager will not look at. So I think that it's an added advantage. And then I think one of the things I love about project management is the fact that it gives you a holistic view. So again, sometimes M&E can be can skew you to a particular direction, and this is good. I mean, it's good to be an expert in something, but if you also want to, if you look at project management, you realize that it gives you a holistic view of an entire cycle as compared to monitoring and evaluation. And that's what I like about project management. I get to see the M&E part, I get to see the leadership part, I get to see the finance part, I get to see the strategic thinking part. I get to see all the other aspects that an M&E person will not see. And I think for me, it also because I am in a managerial role. So maybe if I was in project management as an officer, I may not see it as I'm seeing it now. So I'm just talking from my experience, now. So that's what I like about being in project management now. And like M&E, it is rewarding as well. Again, you get to make impact. You get to change the lives of people. You get to see the smiles on people's face, the joys. You get to, read the testimonials and all the success stories and all of that. And so for anybody who wants to go into project management, I would advise you to do something in monitoring and evaluation. It puts you ahead of your peers who do not have a background in monitoring and evaluation. And so today, if I'm asked, or if I ask you between monitoring and evaluation and project management, which one would you choose? if there was time, I would ask, which one will you choose? Or you can put in the chat, which one will you choose? Would you choose monitoring and evaluation? Will you choose monitoring, evaluation, and learning? Will you choose project management? Which one will you choose? If you ask me, I will say choose both. I think I have said, I have explained the reason why I would choose both. Yeah, because it helps you to understand, things better. It makes you open-minded. It helps you to make the impact that you're actually looking for. It helps you to lead your team in the way that you're supposed to lead your team. So today, I would choose both. But I must say, I'm enjoying project management. I'm not too sure if I'll go into, RMEL, proper. I may, you never know. Maybe an opportunity will come because I still do M&E. I love research. I still write papers. I currently have, by the grace of God, and then also with mentorship from my supervisor, Heather. I've written about almost 10 journal papers and then conference papers as well. So I want to be an expert in research. I want to do well in monitoring and evaluation, but I would also choose project management if you would. Maybe also because I just started the role almost, it's not even been a year since I became the programs manager. And so I'm still learning and I hope to learn even more. So in my journey as both professionals, I have developed some skills and traits that maybe if you find yourself in this space, you have not developed these traits and skills, I would encourage you to do so. Resilience. I mean, right from childhood, I have learned to be resilient. I have learned not to stop. I have learned to keep going, even when things are shaky, even when your future is not assured, even when you do not know where you're going. In fact, I don't even know where I'm going as I speak to you. I appreciate, I have an idea of where I want to go, but you never know. And so that's one thing that you learn, resilience. And then humility. In my role now as a manager, I have learned the hard way to be humble. I mean, these people I am leading were my colleagues. So we were all officers, so it's not like I was from another organization and became a manager in this organization. We all started together as officers and I have been promoted over them. So in the beginning, it was challenging, trying to draw the boundaries, the lines, should I be bossy? What should I do? And all of that. But some of the things that I did backfired in my early, days as a programs manager. I learned the hard way to be humble and all of that. I have learned tolerance. I have learned to communicate. Trust me, I am not a public speaker. I learned it, when I got to maybe Karolinska and then especially at Practical Education Network. I remember my first presentation. I was with Heather, my first international presentation in the US, and I was with Heather, and I mean, Heather asked me to do like a dress rehearsal with her, and it wasn't easy, but I have learned how to prepare presentation slides and all of that. I have not always been like this. And then leadership. Yes, I have learned to lead, especially with empathy practically. I mean, in another forum, I can share my experiences with you leading your own peers, people that you started with. And then also, I have learned to be adaptable, to adapt. I mean, when you look at my career path, I started off as someone who read nutrition and food science. Then I thought, oh, I'll settle in, as a nutritionist, or I'll settle in public health. And now I'm in the education space. I'm in monitoring and evaluation. I am in project management. I'm sure I'll go somewhere else. I am in teaching and all of that. I have learned to adapt. And it is like that for every profession, especially in project management and monitoring and evaluation. You adapt to different scenarios, you adapt to different donor requirements, you adapt to different organization culture and all of that. So, for instance, at Penn, we have a culture that when you come to Penn, you have to adapt to it. You adapt to your organization's core values. At Penn, our core values, humility, integrity, learning, and all of that, generosity. So I've learned to be adaptable. It's part of being open-minded. And some hard skills that I've also learned is research, monitoring, evaluation, obviously data collection, analysis, project management, teaching, strategic thinking, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And I'm sure that you have also learned one or two things. Some challenges and learnings I have learned. Well, yeah, I have learned to leave my comfort zone. So I mentioned to you that I was very comfortable as an RMEL officer. I loved it. I loved research. I loved data collection, data analysis. When you cannot sleep because your data is not adding up, your figures are missing, you have missing data, you have to meet deadlines, write reports. I have a managerial role, which wasn't easy. I mean, it's still not easy, but I think I'm in a better place today. Um, I have also developed new skills, relevant skills, competencies, changed networks and all of that. So these are things that I had to learn. I mean, when I was going to Penn, I only was a master of, qualitative data collection and research and all of that. For quantitative, I had learned it in school, but I had not really used it to do anything. I had to learn it from scratch at Penn and all of that. I had to learn how to do a lot of things, use, basic Excel, Google Sheets, Google Forms, and all of that. I learned everything, all of these at Penn. And then also, it's been challenging. I mean, those of us in M&E, in project management, you know that you have to keep up, with global best practices to remain relevant, and all of that. So it's not easy, but you keep learning. And like I've already mentioned, I have learned to lead, I mean, with empathy. Well, as I am about to bring my presentation to a close, I would want to leave you with certain tips that have helped me in my journey, in my career journey. I would say that keep learning, especially for the women here, keep learning. I mean, you die if you don't keep learning. Keep learning all the time. Don't settle. So even if you have worked in a particular role for years, do courses, take up, you know, enroll in programs, attend some of these things that we are doing, like today's session, attend sessions like this. You never know what you would learn and how much that will help you in your career. Have a positive attitude towards work. Yes, it will keep you going. I will not bore you with all of this. I'm sure you've heard all these things before. Value integrity. It would sustain you. You can climb high in your career, but integrity will help to sustain you in your field. Be patient, okay? Be patient, especially if you're in a managerial role. Be patient with your supervisees, be patient with your colleagues, be patient with even senior management, even be patient in life, because sometimes we are caught up in, our aspirations, and that's a typical me. You are caught up in your aspirations. You want to do this. You are looking for the next available opportunity, the next cause, the next this, that, such that, you are running too fast without picking up, learnings. And sometimes, like I said, fallow periods are good. So when you're going through a fallow period, so for instance, if you're in a situation where you are not in a job or you are not in the job that you really want and all of that, be patient. Some of these things that you are going through are a learning curve for you, and it will go a long way to help you. Have faith. Have faith, whatever you believe in. I am a Christian. I believe in God. I believe that in the midst of all my degrees and all the things that I have, opportunities that have come my way, I believe that everything, my life, my career has also been orchestrated by God. Because if I tell you how I ended up in World Vision, for instance, the same man who came to do the presentation for us, um, in school, I met him at a wedding, like randomly, and I spoke to him, and he told me there was a job opening, and that was it. I never dreamt I would ever meet him because after the presentation, he left. I didn't talk to him, nothing. So I believe that God has also played a role in my journey so far, and don't settle. So don't be like me where I settled, in maybe an officer role. So I'm not saying that settling in RMEL is a bad thing, but maybe settling in an officer role, because I never dreamt I would become a manager, at Penn. I settled, I was comfortable, I loved it, but don't settle. Take up the challenge. If there's anything you want to do, if there's any opportunity that has come your way or is coming your way and you feel you are not able to do it, I'm telling you today that you are able to do it. I didn't think I would come this far, but I have been able to come this far and focus on impact. Those of you or those of us who are in the development space, let's not only focus on, the money, um, um, you know, the recognition for that matter, but we have to make impact. The impact that we set out to make, I mean, let's not lose sight of it and then make impact as we are supposed to. Thank you very much for listening. I'm grateful.
Wow, thank you so much, Mawuena, for your presentation. It was brilliant.
Yeah,
Okay,
most thank
sh
you too. Thank you
sure.
too.
So the floor is open for questions. If anyone has a question, anything that you'd like to ask Mawuena about regarding her presentation, please, this is the time to do so. If you want to unmute, you can do that. Otherwise, you can also type your questions in the chat. Or if you also want to share your comments or also share your experiences or anything that stood out to you while Mawuena was presenting and sharing her story, please also share with us. Great. So, yeah, so I would probably start while people are thinking about their questions or their comments. So I'd like to know whether throughout your journey you had like mentors at each stage, or like there was a particular period that mentoring became very pivotal in your like career choices or like your decisions when it came to seeking a job or yeah, treading a particular career path.
That's a good question. I've not thought about that actually. But I wouldn't say that I intentionally, had mentors or looked up to people closely, like learned from people closely. I think that along the way, people come into my life and then I learn from them and all of that. So for instance, I will say Heather is my mentor now, because I work with her and I look up to her. She inspires me and all of that. I like her leadership style. But I have not, had, people have mentors, that, oh, I have this mentor. And I would love to have one, to be honest, people, but from afar, I have a lot of people I look up to that I learn from, people in my circle, people who are also not in my circle, but definitely I have learned from people. So yes, that's what I would say.
All right, thank you. Okay, so Joy has a comment. She said it's so soothing and relatable listening to you, Mawina. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Yes, I agree.
I have a question.
Yes,
Thank you.
please. Go ahead.
Hi, Moina. This is Elikem. Thanks for your presentation. I really liked your style of presenting. And as a fellow project manager, I would like to ask, how do you manage difficult teams? Because project management is all about people and it can be hard sometimes. So I want to get your perspective on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Elikem. So, Elikem is my childhood friend. I've known her for more than 20 years, so
Yes.
Lovely.
yeah, she's someone I also look up to. Yes.
Great.
Um, so this is a tough question. And I know the answer I would give is not a one size fits all answer. But one thing I have realized is that one of the things that helps you to manage teams, difficult teams well, is dependent on the culture of your organization, really. So in some organizations, they believe in equality. We are all the same, whether you're a manager, you are this, you are that. And so sometimes people do not know their boundaries, and become difficult and all of that. So I believe that organizational culture helps to either increase the difficulty or reduce the difficulty, and even helps you decide on the kind of solution to implement in that. Okay. So I would say that I have not finished learning how to manage difficult teams, but I have realized that I haven't realized or I have learned not to be emotional when it comes to leading people, because people have different perspective, people have different reasons why they behave the way they behave. So I have taken my hat, like they say, out of the way people behave towards me, especially at work. And once I put my emotions aside, and especially for women, if you don't take care, women are very emotional. And if you don't take care, you take things out of context too much. So one thing I would advise you to do is reduce being emotional at work and making decisions out of emotions. Focus on the goal. I mean, keep doing what you're supposed to do. Keep telling them to do things the way you're supposed to do as it pertains to your organizational culture, and take away your emotions. When you do that, you realize that it's either you are becoming too, you want something to be done in a particular way, or the people are just some way. And so you just have to manage, the way they are. And another thing I've learned is that there's no situation that is permanent. Even your staff, I am not permanent at Penn. Everybody is replaceable and all of that. So one day someone will go, someone will come, and things, become better. So that's what I'll say.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
that was a good question. And yeah, great response there, Mawina.
Thank
All right.
you.
Any burning question from anyone? Last comments? Time is up, but yeah, if anyone wants to say something, you can do that.
Yeah, my mic is on. Just one last burning question.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So I want to ask Enna, like I was saying, her story is quite relatable. I started off degree in plant science, and then I went into banking. That was my first work experience. From banking,
Hello, Joy. Are you still there? Mm, okay. I'm sure she'll
I
come
said,
back. Okay. Joy, it looks like we lost you for a brief moment. So I think you said your first work experience was in banking, if I heard correctly. And you have a background in science also.
Hello.
Yes. Yes, Joy,
Yes.
continue, please. Yes. We lost you for a
Okay,
moment.
so okay, I'm not sure where you lost me, but I was just trying to say that I've moved roles from
Okay.
banking.
Mm. Okay, it looks like we keep losing her. Okay, Joy.
Trying this role.
Hello, Joy. Can you hear us? Or hear me
Yes,
at least? Okay. It looks
yes.
like you keep going in and out. So, is it possible you can type your question in the chat?
Oh,
It's
that's fine.
possible. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if there are any comments. Okay, so Emilia said great presentation, Mo, and I keep soaring. Okay, great. Thank you, Emilia. And then Elikam said, thanks, Mona, for the great session and the response to my question. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll just give Joy some time to get back to us. Okay. Okay, Honam says, thank you, Mona. Very insightful. Okay. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Evelyn.
Good evening. And Mawuena, this has been a very great presentation,
Thank you so
very
much.
insightful, and I've learned a lot from it.
Mm.
I have a little concern.
Mm.
My background actually, I started as a secretary. I did HNG, and after I was builded upon. So as I speak, I have masters in MBA, and I also did a masters in how do you call it, monitoring and evaluation at GIMPA and postgraduates. As I speak, I work with Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, and I'm the head of monitoring and evaluation unit. But my story is different from yours. I was like, wow, I wish I could even have just a quarter bit of your experience. You know, when the other lady asked the question and concerning was it Elikem
Mm.
dealing with difficult thing,
Mm.
you know, where I work, I'm not a research scientist, but I work in a research institution.
Mm.
And, working with, um, how do I even put it? There's a culture. And so working in the public service, I mean, it's not been well appreciated as in the private sector or in the NGOs or in the other, how do you call it? How may I put it? So it's a bit difficult marrying the two, or it's
Mm.
a bit difficult practicing MNE, like enjoying it, right?
Mm.
So it's like with my masters and my post-doc certificate, it's been shelved. You get it? Because you don't have the room to practice. And even with what I do here, let's say more or less of administration or administrative M&E, let me put it that way.
Mm.
Um, because of the culture here, it's very difficult to even get approvals for certain things that you have uh, identified, certain things that you write memos or proposals to management to just give you the buy-in, you know, to help put certain things in place, or you identify certain things, you do a report, and it's like, wow, yeah, you are being, how do you call it? They see you as a threat, you know.
Mhm.
So it's like you're not getting the support from the same people that have placed you there. So it's like you are here, but really you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so it's kind of you find yourself to be, I don't even know how to put it, but you're not being given the support to push forward or to move ahead. And so it's kind of yeah, being called out for her. You're being called out and you're not the real you.
Yeah.
Get the real you that you want to be. You need to
Yeah.
come out to be the real you. But they
Yeah.
are being suppressed. So you find you come to work all right, but you see that you are empty. You are not being, I don't know how to, but I had to put it, but I know you get where I'm coming from. Yeah. So it's been very insightful
Yeah.
because like there's no mentor, there's nobody that is been even mentoring you. So
Yeah.
out of your old blue, you are trying to come out, but here's a case that you are being shelved. I mean, you're not being given the opportunity to come out of yourself. There are projects that will be going on, and you are not even aware of projects that will be going on. So if you are not part of that project, how do you even monitor? How do you even become, you know, part of it? Because from the beginning, you should be part of it till the end,
Yeah.
but you're not part of it. And so how do you even get to, even write a report on what is going on? Yeah. So this is what I found.
That's a good observation, and it's actually a real thing people are going through. Um, Yes, I'm thankful and I'm blessed to be in a good organization. But let me tell you that when it comes to M&E, usually everybody has to fight their way. So those of us in M&E will tell you that sometimes those of us we even have budget lines for it, but we don't want the organizations do not want to spend on it because most of the time we are caught up in program implementation such that we forget the M&E part. And so even if, especially even if, in the event where it's not even a donor requirement, as for that one, they'll not even mind you. Okay. And let me say something. When I joined PEN, M&E was not a big thing. I think I mentioned that it was the first time that there was a role like that. Okay. And during my onboarding, and let me say this, during my onboarding, sorry, my battery is low and I'm trying to. During my onboarding, there was a consultant who was doing some M&E, and I never heard anything good from that person. So when I was joining the organization, I was questioning my future, at Penn. But there's one thing about me is I don't I want to make impact wherever I am. So when I joined Penn, when it comes to writing proposals and everything, before I joined Penn, it's usually the project team, the program manager, and then some managers and all of that. But when I joined Penn, I went to tell, my supervisor that you cannot write a proposal with that. So I actually went to him that you cannot write a proposal without, M&E. M&E has to be embedded. If you want to do research, it has to be embedded right from the proposal writing stage. You don't write the proposal, get the fund, and you're now coming to see where you're fitting research, where you're going to fit M&E and all of that. So I was the one, I don't sit down for someone to say, oh, come. So, once I kept doing that, naturally, I became a part of the proposal writing team. My colleague Emilia is here. I don't know if she's still on the call. She is my colleague at Penn, and she was a manager before I became a manager. So it was usually managers who were writing the proposals and everything. And I was the only officer on the panel writing proposals because I told my supervisor that you cannot write proposals without, the team. I can understand that in another environment, you keep going and keep going, nobody will mind you. And that is where sometimes you make decisions when it comes to your career. Would you want to settle? because maybe you're afraid to take the next step, or you would want to move on to a place where you can learn more, get more opportunities and all of that? Or would you keep going to whoever is concerned to say, no, look, this is how things are going to be done. This is how things are supposed to be done until the time where things change. So that is a decision you would have to make, because sometimes things do not change. You would have to change. So that's what I would say.
Great, thank you. I hope Evelyn's question has been answered. Evelyn, you can confirm in the chat. Okay, so we'll take the last question and comment from Joy. So I'll just read it quickly because she has shared it in the chat. So she said, after moving roles from banking to joining development as an M&E officer to becoming project manager, before my project ended, I am sometimes lost on what next to pursue as the years accumulated on each of these roles fall short of the required years most times for the job adverts. What do you advise? And then she has a follow-up. So she said, even though I'm good at what I do in each of these positions, it is difficult to convince recruiters without being given an opportunity, especially when competitors present with longer years in service and may have amassed loads of experience. Hence, I feel sometimes that staying on one path could have been better. Just share your thoughts on this matter. Okay. So, okay, it looks like Mawuena has dropped off briefly. So while she's returning or working her way back into the meeting, please take note of the following announcements. So I've shared the links to our YouTube channel, X, and then LinkedIn. So please feel free to follow us for more updates on upcoming sessions. The recordings are usually worked on and then uploaded on our YouTube channel. So today's recording will be made available there to make it easier and to be up to date with notifications. You can subscribe to the channel so that it's easier for you to get notified. And then also please do well to provide us with any feedback. So I've shared a feedback form also in the chat for us to consider as well. Okay, so I'm admitting Mawuena back. Okay, Mawuena. Okay, Mawuena, we are happy to have you back.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
My
very
laptop
special.
went off, unfortunately.
No problem.
Yes.
Okay, so back to
Okay.
Joy's question.
Yes, the last part of the question you were reading that, if you
Okay,
can read that.
so she said, even though I'm good at what I do in each of these positions, it is difficult to convince recruiters without being given an opportunity, especially when competitors present with longer years in service and may have amassed loads of experience. Hence, I feel sometimes that staying on one path could have been better. Just share your insights on this matter.
Well, I can understand your frustration. I mean, sometimes, sometimes I feel I should have had a profession, maybe I should have studied something that will give me a profession, like maybe become a nurse, become a doctor. You don't think about, you know, convincing someone for a particular role and all of that. So these are some of the challenges that come with, our role in project management in M&E. And I must say that the field is very competitive. I have been blessed to be in managerial roles such that we do a lot of recruitment. Recently, we recruited for our Liberia office, and I was amazed at people's CVs. I was like, oh, wow, if I was, prospecting for that role, I wouldn't have gotten it, at that time, because they have a lot of experience and all of that. So it comes with a challenge, it comes with the challenging part of the role. It's not easy, it's very competitive, etc. But I must say that it is also a field that is rewarding if you find yourself in the right place. So I would tell you not to give up. You would get a job that you would love so much that you would be happy you did not leave to go into another job. So sometimes life is like that. Take it as a fallow period. Take it as a period where you have to learn and wait and be patient and all of that. I hope that you find yourself in another role, that will help you to grow in it. But it's a field, like it's a real field, that you can grow in. So I wouldn't advise you to change. I wouldn't advise you to go into something else, especially if you have interest in this. So I mean, I hope I've answered your question, but I'm praying that you get a job soon, one of these days. Yes, yes, yes. And again, because of the competitiveness of the field, maybe you can use this period to volunteer, take up, do courses, do programs. I'm currently in the Leaders of Africa Research Methods program, so I'm also constantly learning, and all of that is challenging. It's a 1 year program, having to juggle that with project management. We have a project in Liberia currently, we have a project in Ghana. I'm managing being a mother, a wife, and all of that. Now also a student, so use this opportunity to look for some of these opportunities and grow yourself. It will definitely reward you at the end of the day. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Mawuena. We truly appreciate your time. And thanks to all who participated. Thank you for staying with us beyond the time.
Yes.
But I believe that these questions and the conversations we've had have gone a long way to at least help somebody or inspire someone to go a step further in pursuing their career in research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning, or project management or programs management as well. So thank you so much, Mawuena. This will not be the last time we'll invite you. Hopefully, you would collaborate beyond here as well. And yes, please feel free to reach out to Mawuena as well. You're on LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
yes, just look for Mawuena Asem Hanson, and I'm sure
Yes. Yes.
you can reach out to her as well with any questions regarding your
Yes.
career pursuits. So thank you so
Yeah,
much,
Linda,
Mawuena.
before we go, yeah, thank you so much. If you would permit me, before my presentation, I thanked you, but I also want to thank you once again for the opportunity. It was a pleasure being part of today's session.
Yeah.
And also want to thank some of my friends are here. I have my
Okay.
sisters here.
Right.
I have my big sister. She's a lawyer here, Aram, and she's also one of my mentors. So those of you who are asking about, okay, so Linda, you asked, so I mean, unintentionally, I learn things from them. So I observe, and I've learned a lot from my big sister as well. So thank you for joining, Aram. Thank you, Ehonam, for joining. Thank you, Emilia, my colleague. I've learned a lot from her as well. Thank you, Ellie Kim, also for joining. I've already said that she's also one of the people I look up to. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you all for joining. I'm grateful.
Great. So happy end to the month of February and happy new month in advance to everyone. Take care and bye for now.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.